we start with attendance. Going to my right, Levi Chi, present.
Siobhan McKinney, present.
William Coates, present. Matthew Rathman, present.
And then would people online like to say their attendance?
Patrick Cervera, present.
Michael Warner, present.
And can any delegates make their attendance known? No. All right, then we'll just move on to reading of the mission statement. Can I get a volunteer?
MSU Denver TSAC mission statement is to support the evolving needs of MSU Denver students by advocating their best interests to enhance the university experience and opportunities.
Thank you, Matt. Next over to approve the agenda. Everyone, a good look at the agenda. Everyone make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Seconded. All opposed? Any abstentions? All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Agenda approved. Now, is there anybody here for public comment? No. I'll make that acknowledgement at 11:35 for anyone who wants to speak for public comment. Otherwise, we'll move on to our new business. So we're just going to. While we wait for our presentation to happen, we'll just get into the board and committee's announcements and updates. Mike, can you start us off?
I don't have any updates, but we have a board meeting in 2 weeks. That'll be it. So.
Thank you, Mike. CAC?
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry. We just got elected in, I guess. Me and Siobhan. I will be their sustainability committee chair for the remainder of the semester, and I'll let Siobhan.
And I will be their, the Tivoli Reimagine representative for the reunion of this semester.
Yeah. So other than that, we were approving or looking through items that they were trying to approve for swag, an order for swag, and they're still going back and forth a little bit on that. And there's not really much else from this meeting that happened that was very big other than those two things. I imagine in the next meeting we're going to get more into it. I know that they are not planning on meeting for spring break, but the meeting before is a hybrid meeting. So other than that, I don't have many more updates. They're still trying to push the RTD survey. I almost forgot. The RTD survey.
Just continue.
So I'll just speak a little louder too. The RTD survey has a soft deadline before spring break. So I asked how many MSU Denver students have filled it out, and apparently it's only been 30 and 32 or something like that, while CU Denver has like 130 people that have filled out their survey and 20 from CCD. So they're asking us to push a little harder on that survey, and rightfully so. I think we can definitely do a bit of a better job pushing that survey out. So if anyone hasn't filled it out that isn't a student here, please do so, fill it out, and help bring those numbers up, because at the end of the day, that's what they're going to try to justify the, what's that called? The thing that they push forward after. Not the amendment, the,
Legislation.
sure, whatever, yeah. So I don't know the words, but yeah, they'll push something after the surveys. It's not a resolution. It's even help me out here.
Policy.
And they put a referendum. There we go. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, sorry. But yeah, other than that, I have no other updates to say. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, elections manager, Sam.
Yep. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Great copy.
Awesome. So yeah, elections packets are due on Monday. If you know anyone who's finishing them up or you're finishing one up yourself, please try to get that into me by Monday end of day. We will accept ones later than that, but just for scheduling purposes, it would be great if we get everything in by the 10th. The other main thing I wanted to bring up was regarding the requirements for counselors to run. It was specifically the credit requirements that you guys put in your constitution, the 6 credits first semester, 3 credits the second semester. And it was brought to my attention that it could be beneficial to maintain the spirit of this requirement, to shift it so that way people could also do 3 credits for first semester, 6 credits for second semester. And it seems like it's just like a logistic shift, like not something that was purposely excluded from that requirement, but just like a miss in the language. So we don't have to vote on it right now or anything. Obviously, I just wanted to bring it to your attention. And if that's something you guys are interested in shifting or adjusting, just to make it a little more simple for students who might have a slightly different schedule, while still maintaining like that 9 credit requirement, I think that could be really useful. So yeah, just let me know your thoughts on that. I don't think I have anything else to update. So that's just the main thing I would want to speak to the council on.
I have a question about that. Are you referring specifically to the 6 starting credits and then the last 3 in the second semester?
Yeah. So that is what I'm referring to. And I was wondering what you guys think about making it so someone could do 3 credits in their fall semester and 6 credits in their spring semester as well. Would be just like a administrative oversight, it seems like, potentially. But if there is a specific reason to have 6 in the first and 3 in the second, and not the other way around, that, like, I'm totally fine with that. I just wanted to get that to everyone's attention as we're getting packets in case it comes up.
Okay. And then I had a question for you, Sam. For the events coming up next week, based off what you know, do you think it'd be wise to host those events next week for the elections?
Are you talking about the candidate social event?
Yeah.
I am planning on hosting it still if it turns out that we don't have as many packets in as I was expecting. And there's only like 3 or 4 like if there's a small amount of packets in and none of the people want to attend, I'd probably shift the event. I might keep it still because we paid for it and booked it already, and then just I'll use it to advertise elections more. So it is dependent on what I see on Monday packets wise, if that answers your question.
It does. Because that was my main concern, is like not enough candidates showing up to the candidate social due to them not turning in packets and whatnot. Which leads me to my second question. Are you comfortable sharing how many packets have been turned in?
Yeah, totally. I have gotten 1 from a delegate, and then we've got a second one that we just need one little fix on that was turned in, I think, yesterday or earlier today. And I haven't been in the office since Wednesday, so there might be some sitting on my desk that I'm not aware of, but on my end, I've only gotten 2.
Thank you, Sam.
Yep.
That's all. Any more questions for Sam? No? Real quick, can I get another round of attendance from everybody online, just to make sure we got everybody? Yeah, could all the counselors online, give me a real quick verbal, that they are here for attendance?
Yeah, I can do it again.
Michael wanted present.
Patrick Sabra, present.
Victor Delgado present.
Amelia Federico, present.
Thank you. And now, moving on to, accountability committee, Will?
Yeah, I'm meeting with the leads today to go over the future guidelines that we and Matt are drafting up for our committee. Just for future, cycles of, TSAC counselors who join or become part of the accountability committee. That being said, if you are a chair of a committee, I think it would be wise to draft up some kind of guidelines for future counselors to at least follow or like look towards to better do their jobs. Any type of advice that you guys have accumulated over your experience with your committee, anything like that. So, but other than that, the accountability committee has nothing else to report.
Any questions for Will? No?
Those guidelines should be coming in either for the meeting next week or that's spring break. After spring break, I believe, yeah. Let me see. Either next week.
Spring break is third week.
We do have a meeting Friday, Stephen.
Yeah.
Meeting. Okay, so either this upcoming, next upcoming Friday or the 21st.
If there's nothing else for Will, any questions for that? All right, then we're gonna move on to the budget committee with Patrick and Mike.
Yep. Thank you, Levi. Brandon, if you could pull up the master budget right now, just so everyone can see. And then be following that with the budget guideline. Yeah, just pretty much nothing really has changed since last week. I have changed with the sustainability. Everything's doing pretty good. I think as of right now, we're going off of a straw no, and there isn't too much concern as far as budget committee. Our meeting is going to be on Monday. We're going to have quite a few new things, and I would like to do reconciliation. That way we can be all good and set for our trip for Tulane and make sure that we still have funds in our rainy day fund. Make sure we're well distributed throughout all of our committees and just make sure that, we're doing good from here on. However, I would like to change I do have a question for the council, if we could change into the budget committee right now, to the budget guidelines. She wants to refer something here. I'll put it inside the chat. Here, let me see. Well, if you guys have your laptops there, if you guys can go refer to the amendment 12 for the budget committee guidelines. Under section 9 of budget allocation requests, sponsorships and donations, I had a question regarding to the 9.3, as it says budget allocations and member and leadership development funds. Well, this one just says you must have applied to CDC my member and leadership development funds. Has to be 30 days before. I guess really what I'm asking here is can a student group or a student org that isn't registered to CMEI qualify for this, for the member and leadership development funds, or they have to qualify underneath travel criteria? as they aren't really CMI associated. That's my question for the council.
Little?
Section 9.
Okay. I don't really have much of an answer to that. I actually would want to see what Mike thinks on that.
We turn over to the people in who work in CBI for
Oh,
answer to that
excuse
question.
me. All right.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I guess, I'm sorry, Patrick, I'm not following what you're asking. Is this related to a student organization asking for funding?
Yes. So I have a student. So for example, I have Model United Nations asking for for funding. However, they're not a CMI registered org, and I'm just trying to find here if that's something that we can do, because it says expenses not covered or not qualified. It says you have to for the student organization. It's because this one isn't regarded as an event. It would be as a travel because it's trying to travel somewhere else. So it'll be for the Member and Leadership Development Fund. However, part of our process is asking if they are CMI registered. So, yeah.
There's a few seats back there. If you want to grab them.
Did you guys want to answer first?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just have a quick question. Who are we speaking of here? Like what student org are you? Model UN? Is this
Yeah.
Model UN? Okay. Oh.
And then with Patrick's question.
So in y'all's policy, it says that the student government fund for student orgs is supposed to be completely exhausted. Once you exhaust CMEI, then you come to student government. That is something that has just been written there. It's not something that, is there a need for it? That's up to you all to decide. I think Patrick's asking what does the council think in this matter? For us, and CMEI guys, it doesn't really affect us in any way. So it's up to you all to decide if you want to remove that clause or keep that clause. If you remove it, then there is stipulation to where you are now allowing departments and department organizations who are not registered student organizations or just department organizations, in the often case where you get an advisor or professor just kind of organizing students in the name of a club, to be able to come and open up for them to request funds from you all. Does that make it any less viable? No, but it's just a fair consideration of what is to come after if you do remove that one.
And Armando, because they aren't registered with CMEI too, they don't have access to CMEI funds though.
Correct.
So that's another thing to keep in mind. And as Armando said, that's up to you all to decide. Well, they have to exhaust all of the funds. They haven't exhausted because they're not technically registered as a recognized club. So it's up to you all.
Real quick, Mike?
What Armando said is true. It's up to y'all, but I think in the past we've classified them as a student group, like a group of students requesting funding, so they'd be eligible for $1,000 rather than the $1,500.
Any follow-ups to that?
Just a comment. I haven't really thought too much it through as to like the consequences of removing that clause or like ignoring it. I don't know what kind of can of worms we'll be opening if we keep ignoring it. So to my understanding, Model UN can't go to CBI though. No. Can they register?
They can register, but if they're needing money,
No.
Yeah.
So under the form, it says that they're not registered CMI. However, that they did exceed CMI funds. So that's where I was a bit confused on whether if we can still give them the funding. And as she said, if she was a student lead, it's going to be one person going to be able to present rather than the two that we have required inside the clause. That's why I was a bit confused with how we should go about it, or how should I, go through it about the process, I guess, about the organization. I feel like we need a little bit more detail ahead of the presentation.
Matt,
So another issue that arose in that meeting that might make it a simpler one for this one is they're not asking for money to spend, they're actually asking for reimbursement.
So that's what, not comfortable with that. That's a problem.
So part of it was because they just found out very recently because they got accepted into a spot. So they had scrambled to get people going, and that's why they're asking for a refund, not for money for the travel to begin with. That's what they're doing. So I just want to bring full context.
that can be, I guess, we can kind of discuss this issue a little bit more when it comes to like finding this or whether or not it would apply. But just for the sake of keeping things moving, if they're wanting reimbursement and they want to come up to us for money, they can formally present at one of our meetings and ask us about it. And then we give our response when it comes to whether it's applicable or whether we can. So I would just leave that up to them for now. So are you formally like presenting it for them, Patrick?
Sorry, could you say that a little bit louder, Levi?
Are you presenting this request for reimbursement for them?
No, not yet, because the budget committee hasn't voted on it yet. As our meeting on Thursday, was it? Yes, on Wednesday. Not all the chairs were able to attend, just because I did it pretty last minute. So we're gonna meet on Monday, and we're gonna have Model UN also come in. So we already have the presentation, and we're just gonna look over it and then vote on it, and then as in the agenda that I put into the budget committee meeting, state what we're gonna go through there. So right now I'm not presenting anything as as for the council to vote on. I was just trying to make sure that I have all the right information and just be able to go through this process a lot better than just to have good expectations for the people that presenting who are taking their time to come and present to us.
Okay. Yeah, we will discuss that later time at the budget meeting, and then you bring it to the formal meeting. We'll discuss more about it. But keep things moving. Taylor's here and is ready to present. So we're going to cut into the time for budget committee and go to Taylor to present, and then we will return afterwards. So Taylor, if you could take it away. And thank you again, by the way, for presenting for our meeting.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem. I'm going to do some screen sharing here in just a second. But we're here to talk about the anti-hazing policy. Let me share here. All right, are y'all able to see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So just to give you a little bit of background on what this is and why this is happening now, back in December, President Biden signed into law the Stop Campus Hazing Act, or HR 5646, which really required institutions of higher education to do three things. I'll make sure that you get this document here, which has all of our requirements and what happens if we're out of compliance. I'll drop that in the chat after we're done here. But the law, in summation, really requires three things: that we have a big P policy. What do I mean by big P policy? It must be an institutional policy. It can't just live within the student work handbook or inside of the student code of conduct. It has to be an institutional policy. The second is we're required to provide campus-wide education on hazing mitigation. And then third, we have some obligations for reporting out what types of hazing, if at all, happen on our campus. And that will be done through the annual security report, which is something that we're already required to do under the Janine Cleary Act. So I'll pause there really quick and just see if there's any questions before I start going into the policy itself. In our world, we call this an unfunded mandate. And what that really means is that there's things that we're going to be required to do or risk, like Title IV funding, as an example. So that are sort of some of the implications there. So again, I'll drop this document in the chat, but do let me know if you have any questions. You all should already have a copy of the policy. This looks a little bit different than the copy that you have. We have a brand new records manager for the university, and she was able to reformat this in the way it needs to be formatted for our institutional policy. So it looks a little bit different, but I'll be still highlighting some of the things that we want your feedback on and your thinking on as we move this process forward. Where are we in this process? We're at the very beginning stages. So we're really soliciting feedback. So that's gone down to staff through CMEI, through our student conduct area to take a look at. It is going to be next week going to the UPAC, which is the University Policy Council. And that will be a first reading. So it'll be their first hearing of the policy, their first review, similar to the conversation we're having today. And then, of course, you all getting and soliciting feedback as well. So if you think there's any benefit in talking to other groups, do let me know as we go throughout this presentation today. So this policy is being moved forward by me. Obviously, I serve as the Associate Vice President and Dean of Students. This is just some of our record keeping information that we have to maintain. The policy statement, again, this is just sort of acknowledging that we're really trying to foster a safe and respectful campus around our institutional values. It recognizes that our student organizations, our clubs, they all look a little bit different and they function different. Some of our clubs and organizations in particular have national oversight bodies, specifically thinking about fraternity and sorority life organizations who have national offices that sometimes investigate and move through these processes with universities. And this is just articulating that if any student organization or group has one of those oversight bodies, we may choose to work with them to do a collaborative investigation. What we don't want to do is to facilitate two distinct investigations. That's not a trauma-informed practice for students. And so we want to make sure we can align with national oversight boards where we can. There are still a few pieces and parts that we're developing. So you'll see here that we will in the future have a landing page that is specifically dedicated to anti-hazing practices. And that will really include some of our passive forms of education that I'll talk about in a little bit. It will have the policy, links to the policy, and then an organizational scorecard, which is something that we're investigating. And that would be a really great tool for somebody who wants to join any club or organization. If they do have a student conduct history, that they can go and find that information out quickly to make sure that they're going into an organization that they perceive as safe. This is articulating that the hazing practices are serious violations of the Code of Conduct and institutional policy. This really articulates that sanctions would be all the way from reprimand or warning all the way through suspension or expulsion, either for the student organization or for individuals who would navigate these behaviors. Obviously, low-level behaviors wouldn't result in suspension or expulsion. It would really be where health and safety is at risk if we're talking about suspension or expulsion for students or for organizations. That brings us down to reporting. So this is one of the areas I definitely want to hear from you all on and get some of your thinking. We have no obligation under this law to put in a duty to report. So I want to just make sure that everyone is clear on that. The law does not require us to say that students, organization advisors, or any individuals across campus have an obligation to report if they see or observe or hear about hazing behaviors. What you see up on your screen is probably the most conservative, far-reaching type of policy. So that is not what I am recommending we move forward, but I wanted to show as we're having these conversations the different way that we might think about this. So in this context, who has a duty or obligation to report is at the center of the question. We could consider employees, volunteers, advisors, consultants, alumni. Any of those people could be mandated or required to make a report. The question is, do we mandate and require them to make those reports? To give you an update on where the conversation has evolved to, we have a small working group of folks across this campus who are thinking about this question, and where they came consensus to, based on what we hear from UPAC, the University Policy Council, is that it's really hard to, one, mandate a requirement like this, and two, to keep people accountable to it, which makes a lot of sense. And so the place and the discussion where we left it was, what would it look like if we have students who participate in student organizations and those individuals that serve as advisors for student organizations having a mandate to report. So I'll pause there and see if folks have any initial thinking. Go ahead and just, yeah.
So my initial thought is giving them a due to report. What is the repercussion if they don't?
Well, I mean, it's mostly from a health and safety perspective, right? Like if you don't report that something happened in your fraternity, you know, I don't know that there's egregious consequences at all, right? But I do think that that really helps guide how we educate campus, which is a little bit later on, right? So if there's no teeth for requirement for education, no requirement for duty to report, will it actually ever happen? The intent here is for harm reduction, right? We want to reduce the risk. And just to talk, I know the campus context today, there might be a perception out that there's not a lot of hazing, but as we add in the residential component, that could exacerbate that. It may not necessarily exacerbate it, but it could exacerbate it. Good question. Would somebody get expelled or suspended because they didn't report a hazing case? Probably not. I think the consequences there just to add on to that, I think the consequences there may look a little bit different for advisors. So if faculty and staff are acting in their capacity as an advisor, they might have a little bit more of an obligation to do those reports as sort of the responsible administrator for a particular student group. Stephen, I don't know if you have anything you'd want to add on to that and what you've seen about how that's gone at other institutions.
Yeah, I would say that what at other institutions that I've worked at, typically all staff were mandatory reporters. So essentially anything, and including student employees as well. They were absolutely included in that. So if you were receiving any type of monetary compensation from the university, you were considered a student staff member. How would that relate to you all at TSAC? You all work with student organizations. You all have help fund student organizations. So there is a little bit of a gray line that would fall within your roles as TSAC as student leaders.
Matt?
I'm not sure that would work since we're also not employees of the university.
You are receiving compensation from the university.
I was going to say, between the proposed you had in the chat and the one we currently have on the document itself, I was thinking it should be kind of a middle ground as well from what Stephen was talking about. But yeah, basically from one, like having specific people put forward who were in charge of reporting it, along with, what Steve was saying is like anyone who receives monetary compensation by the university should also be obligated to report as well.
Thank you, Levi. I'm sorry, it's a pretty echoey in the room. It's a little bit hard to hear you all. So I think you were basically agreeing. Was that correct?
Yeah.
With what I had proposed? Okay, seeing a little bit of a head nod. If there was something different that I missed though, please do drop it in the chat, or maybe somebody closer to the camera could repeat it.
I was agreeing and supporting what Stephen was mentioning with the monetary, anyone getting monetarily compensated by the universities should be one reporting, has the duty to report.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense. Any other thoughts on this, or I'll keep trucking? And we can always go back if folks think of something later. Oh, Patrick, yeah.
Yeah, so since we are been in that gray area, if someone were to come up to us with this, that they were being hazed or something that be under that, would our obligation be to go talk to our advisors first, I'm assuming? Right? Or would it be our direct line of contact in that situation?
So I think, yeah, you could absolutely talk to an advisor of the organization and you could put in a report together. That might help you sort of think through what you're seeing or observing. But I also think if we feel like we need to delineate that, what the office ultimately who will be responsible for this is the Office of Student Conduct, the Dean of Students aspect of that work. They would be investigating that, and they would likely do that as a co-investigation with CMEI staff, since it's connected to a registered student organization as an example. So really how the information or from whom it comes from, as long as it gets to the right place. And you'll see later on down that we will accept anonymous reports, but when institutions accept anonymous reporting, sometimes there is a lack of information for us to be able to take action. And if we don't have somebody to follow up with, it might limit our ability to address that particular violation. So, again, I think it's a delicate balance and a dance we'd have to do.
Right.
So I have another question, because not all the student orgs on campus are associated with CMEI. Some of them are associated with specific departments. Would that just be a difference of partnering with that department versus CMEI to address the conduct?
No. So you'll see later in this policy that we have clearly defined that as organizations and groups. And so groups that are not registered student organizations still will be implicated by this policy, but they are a group independent of CMEI as an example. But we've created a delineation between the two. And so would we do a co-investigation with the Department of Social Work? We probably would not, just simply because they haven't been trained on how to do investigations. But would they stay in the loop since that's an organization that reports through their system? Yes, they would.
Anybody else?
Okay, I'll keep trucking, but happy to go backwards if folks think of other things. So filing a report, we'll make sure that there's an online incident report form. I think Kristen West is on this call and has built a shell of an example of that, but it will look and function very similar to our student conduct reporting form or academic integrity reporting form. So based on how the individual fills that out or what departments they say are implicated or what types of organizations, certain people would get that communication as appropriate. Again, you could report into the Dean of Students office by also walking in. And then this is where we have that anonymous reports or accepted note. Rights of the reporting party. So what this really is creating under this particular is a carve out for individuals, getting at one of the questions we received earlier. If you're a member of your student organization and you're like, wow, this, the hazing that is occurring as a part of the process to become a member of this organization is really worrisome to me. Obviously, we know that folks care a lot about their student organizations, and that can sometimes limit somebody's interest or ability in making a report because they care about, the people in their organization, and they perceive something really bad is going to happen. This particular piece of the policy has a carve out so that if you are implicated, that there are ways for you to not have really serious alcohol or drug related violations if that's a factor. So as an example, forced consumption is a form of hazing, right? So perhaps as a part of an initiation program, everybody's getting all that they would then take. So you would not be, if you made a report that you were required or mandated to do that to become a member of that organization, you would not get in trouble in that context, either for the hazing or for the alcohol or drugs. So you wouldn't risk yourself getting in trouble or getting into more trouble by making a report. So we do give that carve out there. Any questions about that piece?
Taylor, may I address a question that just came up in the room?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear it.
No. It was more directed at me. There is an anonymous way to file a report. Just know that the ability to investigate is affected because when you file anonymously, it's really hard to do fact finding and really go through a proper investigation channel. And that was stated earlier. If Taylor, you would scroll back up just shortly. It says your anonymous reports are accepted. However, the ability to investigate such reports may be limited. It poses a little bit more of a challenge on the investigator. So yes, you can.
That's actually, Stephen, that's a really, really good point. When we have to do student conduct work is primarily led by legal boundaries. So because we're a state organization, we have to follow the Constitution, frankly. And so we have to provide fundamental due process to any organization or student who goes through our process. And that means, essentially due process means a couple of things. It means the ability to review and inspect any information that we have that is not otherwise protected. So you don't necessarily get to view another student's FERPA record, academic record, as a part of a conduct investigation. But if a student makes a claim against you, you get the opportunity to see and inspect that claim. The only exception to that is if there is a significant and demonstrated health and safety concern, we can limit your ability to review that. But in my career, and most of my career has been spent doing student conduct work, that's happened twice that I can think of. And I've seen thousands of student conduct cases and student organization cases. So it's pretty limited. The second thing when it comes to due process is the ability for an organization or a student to respond to the documents and the allegation. So they have to know what they're being charged with, what violation of the code of conduct or what institutional policy. They can respond to that. And then the last piece is they have to have a relatively timely process. We can't drag something out. We can't leave somebody on an interim suspension for years. We have to give them their due process and move through. So that is why anonymous reports are so hard, because if we have insufficient information, it will fundamentally close the investigation. So investigation process. So the Dean of Students office would review those hazing reports and investigate as appropriate. Again, I mentioned earlier, if it's connected to a registered student organization, we would be doing that with CMEI. So it would be a co-investigation. But also we'll work with human resources, the OEO and Title IX process, and campus safety as appropriate. And so to give you some examples of that, perhaps we would involve human resources if there was an instance of hazing where a faculty or staff or a student employee was involved. We probably would involve them, especially if it was a function of the working environment. We probably involved OEO if one of the allegations in hazing involved some form of sexual violence, sexual harassment, discrimination. They're probably getting involved as well too, because they have to investigate those pieces. And then we would be involving the police if, for instance, we needed to obtain video footage of something that happened on campus. They are our Cora partners in that. We'd have to go to them to get that information. Community education. So again, I remember this is one of the big three things that we're going to be required to do. This paragraph is really just affirming that we're going to provide community-focused education. And what I really want to highlight for folks here is, as we're thinking about community education, our partners, Richard Michio over in the Health Center, CMEI, they're thinking broadly about what that education looks like and how we deploy that. We don't have a full, robust answer for that. That will happen. We'll be able to answer that question before the end of the semester. We have to be in compliance by June and July for various aspects of this policy. So more to come on that. But what I can share with you is it is my hope and sort of the conversations that we've had so far that we're really focusing in on trauma-informed care, but also violence prevention work. So power-based violence is exactly what hazing is. We see this in sexual misconduct as well. And it's really where one individual who has, either through perception or in reality, more power of one person, exerts that power or authority in an appropriate way over another person. So if I'm the president of a student organization and I make you do something that qualifies as hazing to become a member, I'm utilizing that power dynamic to require you to engage. And that is the same way we see sexual misconduct occur as well. So it'll really help us align some of our educational initiatives with places like the Phoenix Center, as an example. Any questions about community education, or Stephen, did you want to add anything onto that particular piece?
No, you're fine. Thank you.
Cool. Non-compliance here, this is really mostly focused for employment or volunteer positions. So earlier, Matt, you asked sort of what the teeth are if folks don't follow that policy. And this is what I really meant when I talked about, if you're a faculty staff member that is serving as an advisor for an organization, we really need to start moving away from sort of, I call them paper advisors, where they just sign off on events or they sign off on your funding or co-sign emails for you. We need advisors to be engaged with their organizations to make sure that these kinds of things are not occurring. All right, so here's the big one, definitions. So right now, where do we have hazing defined? Hazing is referenced in the Student Code of Conduct as a potential violation, so it currently exists, but it's not iterated out about what those types of behaviors look like. And so really this is an expansion upon and would be added into the Code of Conduct, specifically bullet point 3, which I'll go over in just a moment. So really bullet point 1 and 2 are to highlight the current state of Colorado revised statutes around hazing. It's a level 3 misdemeanor currently if you're found to have violated hazing through the legal system. And so what this is attempting to articulate is we're going to further define what hazing is off of the state of Colorado's statute. And so that is what bullet point 3 is here. So, if you're a student organization or a student who's alleged to have committed a hazing violation, it would be one of these, 5 different aspects, and I'll go through each one. So first and foremost, this one's pretty aligned with the state law. Any action or situation which recklessly or intentionally endangers the mental, emotional, or physical health or safety of a student for initiation, admission, or affiliation into any student organization or group, regardless of the person's consent to participate. So the couple of things I'll anchor here on this particular one for you is the mental, emotional, and physical health and safety. This one's a pretty broad policy, and it's intended to be so. How folks get hazed is constantly changing, and it changes based on the context of the campus. I've done hazing investigations where individuals were buried up to their head. I've navigated student death. I've navigated where they have to do what are those things where things are hidden around campus and you have to go find them? What is that called? I can't think of the name.
Scavenger hunt?
Yes, scavenger hunts that are not quite appropriate. When we start talking about mental safety, I've navigated situations where students were required to go into really unsafe warehouses and navigate unsafe environments. That could be an example of sort of physical health and safety. Mental health and safety could be a requirement that they don't leave their room for 2 weeks. So that sort of deprivation of community could be examples there. B, brutality of a physical nature, including but not limited to paddling, whipping, beating, branding, forced calisthenics, or exposure to the elements. A lot of time we see that paddling as an aspect if we're talking about fraternity and sorority life groups. Forced calisthenics could be, if there's a student organization that's particularly interested in fitness, as an example, and they require you to hit a certain level of fitness in a particular kind of context. I'm not saying that like organizations like club athletics teams don't have requirements for a physical nature. Athletics teams and military affiliated organizations are exempt from this, and that is at the Colorado state level. So they're exempt by the law. Third is coerced consumption. So again, that requirement to eat a certain amount of food, to consume alcohol, or to do anything that would put somebody at an unreasonable risk of harm based on substance use or some substance consumption. D, acts intended to cause mental stress, such as sleep deprivation, forced exclusion from social contract, transportation or abandonment, confinement to a small space, or forced conducts designed to shame or humiliate. So I think I already talked a little bit about, the deprivation aspect of this, but this also would look like, if you force someone to go streaking, as an example, right, that might be a level of humiliation. And then E is coerced activities that violate local, state, and federal laws. So, requiring someone to break the law or to steal something from a convenience store as a requirement of admissions would constitute hazing. So I'll pause there and I'll zoom out on the document a little bit so you can kind of see them all at the same time. Any questions about these particular policies or how they would be applied? I recognize that's a ton of information to consume, especially if you're not familiar with hazing or you haven't had the chance to look at this yet. So I'm happy to also receive emails from you all as you noodle with it a little bit over time. Okay. Members of the university community. So again, this gets back to the who is going to be obliged for duty to report and who are we intending to educate. So this is one of those things that we would edit from here. But again, faculty and staff responsible for student organizations, along with organizations and groups, are considered members of the university and beholden to this policy. So again, it would be exactly what Levi affirmed, what Stephen confirmed, and what I discussed about, individuals in the organizations themselves, and then the faculty and staff who support those organizations would have an obligation under this. And then answering the earlier question, organization and groups, the two difference between that. So organization would be a registered student organization, and so that would be with you all. It would also include club sports from campus recreation. We co-locate those together in the database there. And then groups would be informal or non-registered groups affiliated with the university and could include athletic teams, performance ensembles, and academic or administrative units. So we're not just talking about clubs and organizations when we look at this policy. We're also talking about, if we have a choral ensemble or the theater troupe, they could constitute a university group. Here we have some related information, hyperlinks to other things like the state law. We'll eventually have that resource page here, incident reporting form, OEO's policies, and then of course the student code of conduct. And then all of this is just about policy history and just as a requirement for the policy itself. Before I take this down so we can see each other's faces, was there anything that folks wanted me to scroll back to so that you can see it again?
Real quick, Taylor, is there anything besides regarding opinion about specific policies and specific elements of the policy? Was there anything today or any actions you would want from TSAC regarding this policy? Or is
No, I mean, this is our first initial read. I think I am interested in it as well because, we'll be holding students, organizations accountable to these policies. I would love to hear any thoughts you all have about how these would be applied or what your thinking would be. Again, this is the first of several conversations, and we were really working towards a deadline that's in June and July. Obviously, you all will transition away in May, so we're thinking about that as well. So I think we have some time, but this is sort of, our initial stab at what a comprehensive policy could look like. I don't want to overemphasize, but I think this is pretty close to what a national standard might look like. There are other states who are navigating this, but like my home state of Ohio, for instance, where it is actually a felony to violate hazing law. And so they have a lot more different standards on some of these things as well, too. This is new for our institution. It's new as we expand sort of the residence life components. It's new as we sort of expand our student organization opportunities as well. So I think that this is just really new for our campus as well. And so I want to make sure we interrogate it deeply. Yeah, Matt.
I noticed near the top you have an AHEC representative position in this. What is their role in this policy?
There is no, so they're one of the people that helped inform the policy. They're not going to have any sort of decision-making authority here. But what's really, really important from my perspective, again, this is our institution's policy. AHEC is not obliged under this law because they don't have the same circumstances and they're not a university, right? But because we, as an institution with the other two schools and AHEC, do a lot of policy sharing, it was important for me to make sure that they were looped in and understood how our institution was shifting, if at all. So really, it was just to be a good partner.
Any other questions or comments? Does anybody online have any questions or comments for Taylor?
I just have one question. I mean, I'll look over the document a little bit more further depth, but as far as like the consequences for the student, it wouldn't be for the whole organization. Like, would it, if like one particular individual to do something, would the whole organization for consequences, or would it just be strictly that individual and then like more strictly enforced regulations under that org?
That's a really good question, Patrick. Thank you for asking that. It's also a complicated question, and I'm going to give you the lawyer answer, which nobody appreciates, but I'll try to nuance it. It depends. And what I mean by it depends is it really depends on what the behavior is and who is involved in the behavior. So I'll give you an example where we might analyze it in two different ways. So if, let's say, everybody that's here in this room and online, we're a student organization, and let's say that Matt here is the president of the student organization. Matt is responsible for sort of leading all of the aspects of the organization, and it's spring, so we need to find some new members. And let's say Matt is like, hey, I'm going to run the new member process this year. Everybody else in the organization, you don't have to do anything. And so Matt pulls everybody into a room and says, you must take a shot of liquor if you want to be a part of this organization. Otherwise, you should leave now. You're not going to be a part of it. In that context, we're probably only looking at Matt as an individual and his individual behavior. Where we start to look at organizational behavior is if all of the officers together are planning a particular event that involves hazing, if they're utilizing organizational funding to buy the alcohol that they're going to make people consume, as an example, that would be something where we'd be looking at sort of the organizational level. There are also some circumstances, and this is somewhat rare, where there is such a long history in the organization of these practices that alumni groups or other folks that are influencing this can advance that, or they put pressure even on the leaders in the organization to uphold that as a particular culture. And I think that's where we can be really good partners to help the organization reset as well. So I don't know, Stephen, if you have any experiences, or Armando, that you'd want to sort of hang your hat on where we sort of analyze those in two different contexts.
Yeah, no, Taylor, everything that you said is accurate. Patrick, it really does depend on the situation, and is the organization and are the actions a representation of the organization, or are they representative of really just one individual within that organization, not necessarily acting within the capacity? So it really does fall within that scope, and it makes it challenging. So yes, organizations can be held accountable.
Thank you.
So
Taylor, we have one more question. Irby, would you mind speaking up just so they can hear it as well?
Hi, I have a question for you. What were the recent practices which were noticed on campus happening related to hazing?
I'm so sorry, it's so echoey. I just hear sort of noise.
What are some of the recent practices observed on campus of hazing?
So to recent memory, we haven't had any violations of hazing on this campus in near memory, which is a win. And I also think, we'll need to re-educate campus about what hazing is and what those behaviors can look like. And so every time I've done this at an institute, well, every time, this will be my second time instituting a sort of a policy like this, and sort of getting reactions from campus. As campus learns about what hazing is or what they perceive hazing to be, we should anticipate hazing reports to increase. And some of those will be valid, some of them won't, to sort of organizations renegotiate how they do the work. But today we're not seeing a lot of hazing connected behavior, but that could also be a function of underreporting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other
All right.
questions?
Wonderful. So what I'll do is I'll make sure I'll probably just send it to Stephen and Armando just to get it out to you all. I'll send this new version of the policy that you all looked at today, and by new, it's just really reformatted from what you all have with some language changes, as well as sort of the expectations from the law. That document also has a hyperlink. If you want to go read the law yourself, you can go take a look at that too. So if you do have any thoughts, feel free to give those to Stephen or email me directly. I'd be happy to hear them. And if you can get them to me before Tuesday, that would be great, simply just so I can sort of name those things to the University Policy Council, so that they can hear sort of what your all's perspective was as they sort of consider the policy itself. They're the ultimate determining people about whether or not we adopt this policy before Dr. Davidson, the president, signs it. Cool. Well, I hope you all have a good day. Thank you for spending some time with me. Bye, y'all.
Thank you so much, Taylor, for coming to present for our meeting. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Kristen.
Question, do we have someone on that committee? We have to see, right? Policy committee. Okay.
Anyways, we're gonna move back over to the budget committee. Patrick, do you have anything else? Once. All right, I guess Patrick doesn't have anything else, so we're gonna move on to the PR committee with Susanna.
Sorry that I was late. I went to get his deed, but I didn't know that room was canceled, so I was walking everywhere. From our last meeting, me and Patrick were having some updates of different events that we plan to do by March 17th. It's like 2 weeks from now. It's a TBD still because we are still finalizing some things at the moment. I also do want to remind everyone about the schedule. I did send a message multiple times through the PR committee that me and Patrick would really appreciate that everybody does the schedule because we don't want to collapse on people's work, classes, etc. And Haley is not here at the moment. I just wanted to ask Victor about Earth Week.
And Earth Week specific as in how? I was gonna make an announcement about it.
Okay, because since it is an event, just don't forget we have to coincide with PR just that we could have a updated version of how we could help you guys out. And that's all I have from our update.
All right then. That's the case. We'll move on to sustainability with Victor.
What's up, y'all? Let's see. Next week we have an event on the 13th, and I believe that all of our goodies for the goodie bags for that week have arrived. So I will take some time on Monday and Tuesday to make those care packages. If anybody would like to help, that'd be great. If not, it's okay. Just making goodie bags for the event. We're giving out like hygiene packets and stuff like that with like toothbrushes, deodorant, all that good stuff, and we're just gonna make a bunch of them to give out
What is
during the event.
just a care package event or?
It's with
Yeah,
the,
just like small care packages.
How are you making that bag, like goodie bags? What material? Can, sorry.
Yeah.
So how we have it is for the counselors, if a delegate wants to speak, they yield their time to them speak.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
I also
Yeah,
couldn't hear you. Sorry.
What is the question?
I want to ask, like, how are those goodie bags being made? What are the materials being used for those goodie bags?
Can you say that? Or can somebody repeat it one more time that's closer to the camera?
Yeah, Victor, Irvy's just asking, how are those goodie bags being made and what are the materials?
So it's going to be things like sunscreen, toothbrushes, toothpaste, things to like get you started for the spring, kind of like a little spring cleaning kind of thing. Not like that, but like, like trying to get everything in order for spring break. Trying to find another way to kind of de-stress and get rid of that anxiety is kind of what we're trying to do in these little care packages that we're trying to do. Um, so we're gonna put those together Monday and Tuesday. If anybody would like to help, that'd be great. Um, and then in terms of Earth Week, I just had a meeting with the committee this week, and looks like they got a lot of stuff going down actually. Uh, Tuesday, they're gonna have a planet party, which they're gonna have like films playing. They're gonna have like an art show. They're gonna have a speaker that day. Then Wednesday and Wednesday is going to be the resource fair, and also there's going to be a farmers market, and that's where we were going to be. That's where I wanted to put student government in, and some of the things that they said we could like a sponsor like an activity during the resource fair. They said that some of the other groups came in and made like had stuff to make like build your own tote bags and terrarium building. So I would like to do something like that. So maybe that could be something me and you, Susanna, could sit down and talk about, see what we can do for that. Um, and then there's also going to be a farmer's market on Wednesday. And then there's also going to be the butterfly pavilion is going to come and they're going to bring uh, what Butter Pavilion brings, to events and stuff like that. I think Rosie's going to be there, which is going to be pretty tight. Um, and then Thursday was I don't have what Thursday has. Um, I'll get back to you on Thursday. But Friday they wanted to do a cleanup day from 10 to 2, and they wanted to clean up the river. And I pitched Matt's idea there that we do a tri-institutional pickup day. But then the only thing would be that it would fall right on our uh, meeting time. So that's kind of something that I have to think about. Maybe we could do like a meeting outside or something like that during the cleanup. But maybe we could work on logistics later. But just know that there is a cleanup day on Friday that you guys are more than welcome to attend. They asked us to help with cleanup. They asked us to help with sorting waste for that week. They also asked us to sponsor some of the food. So Tuesday, Thursday, they're gonna give burritos out to people who use public transportation. So they're gonna sit outside and they're gonna ask people if they, uh, hopped on the bus or how did they get to school, bike, and if they took some public form of transportation, they're gonna give you a burrito. And they asked us to sponsor the burritos for Tuesday and Thursday. It's somewhere on the order of 350 per day. And as well as they wanted to ask us for sponsorship for a mac and cheese bar for the fair. And that would be 750. but also CU Denver is on the committee, and they were also wanting to sponsor some of the food. So I don't think we're gonna have to spend all that money. We have another meeting on the 18th. If anybody would like to show up for that meeting, that'd be great. But I just wanted to see what the overall opinion the council was to assist first week.
Direct comment from Patrick.
Yeah, so since thank you for bringing this up. I think that sounds like a great idea for all of this. This is a little bit more towards the budget area. If we were going to sponsor something, I mean, maybe we can start planning on this for Monday, because we do have to have a presentation for anything that we sponsored, anything that's outside, like from another student organization or anything like that. We do need a presentation for that.
Okay. We can do something like that. I know I still have to write a resolution to actually use the money from the green purchasing funds. So I'll present to you guys as well in a more formal setting once I have the resolution written.
And then Susanna, you had something to say to that?
Yeah, for next week event, it's on March 13th, right? I remember communicating with Haley about this, getting a flyer for us to repost it, but I haven't received that yet. And we also agreed on covering 1 day of catering from y'all, and we still need an invoice and what type of catering would that be, and if it's a approved vendor.
Yes, yes, and yes. The approved vendor, same cafe. They ordered the Sam Cafe food, and then they're going to send us the invoice sometime on Monday, and I could send that over to you once I get it. And in terms of the flyer, they already made a flyer, so they would just have to send it to us so we can distribute it. So there wouldn't be any flyer making on your part.
What is it from Sam's Cafe?
Yeah, Sam Cafe.
Is it an approved vendor?
As far as I know, yes. We've been ordering from Sam Cafe for the last couple of events that we've had.
Okay, I just need that invoice for that 1 day as soon as possible.
Okay, I'll get it to you ASAP as soon as I get it.
Thank you.
Patrick, did you have another question?
This one isn't for Victor. This is for a separate note as PR chair. So as Donna mentioned earlier, her and I are in the works of finalizing an event that we want to do. So I wanted to ask the advisors, because this one specifically, we would need an advisor. If you guys could send us your availability, because our idea is, just so you guys know, is about having a golf cart similar to as what Haley and CMI had for the voting that we had earlier for area votes. So I wanted to see if any of the advisors could let us know if you guys would be available to drive it, because we need an advisor to do that.
Do you have a date and time?
We were planning to hit it to March 17th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., but that's still late.
Hang on, checking. I can drive from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
And honestly, that's a good amount of time.
Yeah.
That's all you have to say for that. And Stephen had something to say.
Yeah, just as you all are talking about this, the sustainability committee, different events that you all are planning, folks, please remember, we have delegates now. And it seems to me that we need to start tapping into them. They've all been sworn in into TSAC. And I know we have some delegates online. I know we have Irvi here in person, but I really, really, really want you to start using the delegates. And it could be as simple as throwing something in the Teams chat for all of TSAC to say, hey, we're doing X, Y, and Z this day, this time. delegates, are you all there and available? We need some support. This way, I don't want everything on Susanna. I also don't want everything on Victor or any other counselor as well. I want you all to be able to delegate to our delegates as well.
Hey, delegates, if you guys want to help me on Monday or Tuesday, that'd be great.
Sorry, continue.
It's supposed to be the other way around. You're supposed to tell them what they need to do.
Oh, I actually have to tell them like directly, like, hey.
No. Encourage. We're at the encouraging phase right now.
So
Okay.
it would be waiting forever.
We're encouraging first, and then.
Okay. I'll write something up on the team chat when I'm gonna be in the office and work on those care packages. Just see if you guys can help out.
Thank you, Vic.
No, yeah.
Is there any more questions or comments for Victor for sustainability? No? We're gonna move on then to faculty and staff senate with Matt and Siobhan.
So, in the faculty, I haven't done the staff. We didn't get an email for the staff. So for the faculty senate, this past Wednesday, they did a lot of voting on it wasn't really too much concern for the students, and also they were promoting the start of the Give Day campaign, and some of us, like myself and others, we made a donation that day, and that's about it for the staff, for the faculty.
All right then. We'll move on to.
Wait. Sorry. I have a question for either Matt or Siobhan.
Yes, ma'am.
How much connection or how much involvement are we having with staff?
So far I have not, in my family, they were friendly and we have that, but I don't know what Matt, have you seen anything?
Well, I think Brandon helped us get some of that information so we can go, but we didn't really get anything from the staff senate. So, but I do have something I want to present both the faculty and staff senate to help support Rabbit's Corner.
Okay.
Patrick, did you have something to comment on that?
Yeah, just a reminder, if any donations, sponsorships, or anything like that, we do need, like, if you guys have anything like that, just come to the budget meeting and then we can see from there.
What is it?
I think I got it.
So it sounds like it was a personal donation, not a donation through TSAC.
Yes, I was just part of just donating for the initiative that they had. Yes, thank
But
you, Matt.
Patrick made a valid point. If we decide to do anything, it has to go through the appropriate channel.
Right.
But as an individual, you're completely fine doing what you want to do.
Yes.
Is there any more questions or comments for anybody else?
Wait,
It was about him, what he's presenting there.
Yeah.
Oh.
If there's no other questions or comments, then we'll move on to our next item. We once, twice, all right.
The open floor.
Delegate updates. Any updates from our delegates?
We decided to take some committees that you asked us to fill out the survey.
Yeah, those were to be assigned.
Okay, that is supposed to be.
Is there anything else from the delegates?
I don't have any updates. Thank you. Oh, me neither. Thank you.
Awesome. Are there any questions or comments about that from anybody?
one.
Will, yes.
I'll be reaching out to some delegates to see if anyone's interested in helping me and Matt come up with how they're getting them today. Very well, never mind. You're getting your task today. I was just trying to make sure that.
Any more questions or comments? All right then, open floor announcements. So we'll start with Siobhan and then I have some.
Hi, everyone. I'm pleased to announce that I've been working closely with the C2 Hub initiative, and I would be one of the co-moderators for the panelists that they're having on March 13th, starting at 9 a.m. in the morning until 4 p.m. With that, it's called the Workplace Equity Summit. And C2 Hub has been working closely with different partnerships, industry partnerships, to foster an inclusive and equitable mission for oh my God. Yeah, sorry. I don't know. All right, so this initiative is about fostering how students, MSU students, would be fostering how they would get a sense of belonging in the workplace and in any spaces on campus that they enter. So yeah, being part of that.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments for Siobhan about that?
I have a question actually.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, too. Can we get that sent in the group chat, or did you already send it?
Yes, I had sent it in the chat on Monday or Tuesday.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I sent so that I send the QR code and the agenda.
Awesome. And then the second question is, it's throughout the whole day, right?
Yes,
Thursday?
yes, from 9 a.m. to, I said 4, but sorry, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So at any given time, you can come in and enjoy. Yeah, no, it's going to be in the Tivoli Town Hall. And I will be presenting from 12:30 to 12:45. So it will be nice if I could have some support. Thank you.
Of course.
Real quick, Irving has a question. So anyone the other time?
Yeah, I'll use my time.
What is the agenda for this? Where are the content?
Oh, so it says that, okay. So there will be 100+ educators, community leaders, but the list is really long. I think
Yeah.
oh,
You have like 3 slides.
oh, okay. And I put everything in the chat. So you could see all of the changes that'll be coming. I took my time.
Is there any more questions or comments for Siobhan? All right, for the next one, I have for the OER update for the event we had. It was a really good turnout. We had a lot of people come by. What they had for their events is that they had a lot of flyers, basically a QR code of all the online resources. And they had a sticky note saying, instead of paying money for your tuition or textbooks, what you spend it on. We had over, I think, 120 sticky notes from students coming by and saying what they would spend their money on instead. So great turnout, great participation from everybody. And they want to pass on the message. They really want to thank TSAC for helping us, or for helping them with the event and sponsoring financial support and stuff. So from Emily and Reagan to all of you, thank you for your help.
Thank you for that.
Is there any more open floor updates or any questions for me about the OER event? No? We'll move on to our last item on the agenda, the advisor updates.
Yeah. Oh, wait. What? Oh. What?
Too late. All right.
Wait, no, I'm sorry. I couldn't get there fast enough. And it's good news. My update is that, yes, So the MSU Denver specific Know Your Rights training that was adopted from Undocu Peers um, is finally off the ground, and it will be happening next week, March 11th, 12:30 to 2:30, and then 2:30 to 3:30 is the wellness space. There will be limpias provided to people in addition to wellness facilitators there. Please come by, and thank you to Haley's not here right now, but I want to give a shout out to Haley for making that connection to David Fine. There was a little bit of trouble because legal had previously approved the training, but due to the changing political environment, the Undocu Peers team made some changes to the training, and we wanted legal to have their eyes on it. Legal was like, "This is not our scope," and I was like, "Okay, well, you previously passed this, so I don't know what you're talking about." But another legal team from CERC that's been vetted by ISP approved it. ISP also approved it, and so just wanted to give that update, and thank you to Haley again, and I will share the flyer in our chat.
All right, any questions or comments for Amelia? Reminder, by the way, online, there's a little bar you press where you can raise your hands, and that way next time we don't miss you. If that's all, then we'll move over to advisor updates.
I'll go first, folks. Hello, everyone. First thing I want to share with all is something we had decided, you all had decided last week. So I had brought to the floor that this Title IX search committee was happening, and I believe, Matt, you were the other TSAC member there. So what I had learned, and Haley shared this with me the other day, is that Haley was asked to serve in a personal capacity or as a student, not necessarily a student of TSAC. So that leaves you, Matt, as the sole member of TSAC that would be there. So after I yield my time, you all can discuss this, but do you all want to just allow Matt to be the person there, or do you want to have a secondary person there? So you all can decide that. I personally think Matt is completely capable of doing that, but let me get through my updates first, and then you all can have that discussion. Secondly, if you all didn't see on Wednesday night, but your own Victor Delgado was on Channel 9 News, and I have the link, and so he was there, and so I will send that to you. Thank you, Victor, for sending that to us. It's about 26 minutes in, he gets to stand up. They put him on full camera, so you'll get to see his precious little face on camera, which is 26 minutes. Not for 26 minutes, no. At the 26-minute mark, he will be there. So I will share that on the TSAC page, so that way you all have that. Third thing I want to, okay, Victor.
I don't think we want that.
He just said, I wish I had 26 minutes of screen time. Last week, I also mentioned about the end-of-year concert, end-of-year event that CMEI is hosting, the Roadrunners After Dark. Next Monday, we are going to be releasing the headlining artist for this concert. So it will come out on Monday night. Again, or not Monday night, Monday afternoon. One of the things I had shared with you all is how you all want to have a role in that. And I'm going to just provide a suggestion for you all. And really, Patrick was the one who volunteered to represent you all there. So Patrick, this is something you can talk with you folks here in TSAC, but we are going to have different vendors at this event. One is a funnel cake vendor. Is that something you all want to potentially sponsor or do? Or do you want to do something differently? Do you want to have a TSAC, maybe mocktail stand, where you all are there making mocktails, not cocktails, mocktails. So that is something, those are just options I wanted to bring to you all. So Patrick, if that's still something that you're interested in doing and serving with this group, please let me know. And well, no, I'm sorry, I'm getting it all confused. You volunteered to be a part of Welcome Week. This is something different, but you had a question about TSAC's involvement. However, you all as TSAC can decide what you want. I will need to know relatively soon what you all want to do. If you all want to sponsor one of those vendors to come to campus, like the funnel cake vendor, let me know. Armando and I can work with you all to do that. I guess, Patrick, I was telling you from a financial standpoint, if there's something else you want to do, that's fine too. Last thing I want to say is that as a whole, in terms of TSAC, again, I just want to echo my message on teams. We need to be better about transitioning online last minute. Today we had a guest. We had the Associate Vice President of Student Affairs there. Not to mention, we are advertising our meetings that are in person. We moved this remote this morning. And so that is not enough time to comply with or to advertise to students, but also comply with Colorado sunshine laws. So we need to be extraordinarily careful about doing that. So from now on, and this is not really just, this is more of an accountability thing. If folks are going to be online, we need to know at the very latest by end of day Wednesday. And I say that because that allows a little bit more than 24 hours prior to the meeting and will allow us to comply with Colorado Sunshine Law. That doesn't, you don't need to vote on that, but that's something that Brandon, Armando, and I can help enforce. So please, folks, we need to adhere to that. We are hosting in-person meetings. That is it. I yield my time.
I'm just gonna say this because I have to run to a conference. I finished the delegate task. I appreciate all of those who have talked to Stephen and I so far. So I'm just gonna read the name of the task and the list off. So can you back up, please? Undocumented student support will be Sky. AES survey will be Steffi. For voting rights will be Cy Holtz. Social media management will be Jamani. Resource gathering, Chase. Elections promo support, Anae. The safety training support will be Sarah. The position description development will be Irby. And then there's one person who has not filled out the survey, and there's another person who filled out the survey before I got to put the name thing on the survey, so I don't know who they are. But whoever that person is, John Doe 1, is going to be marketing and event logistics. I will throw this into the larger TSAC chat, and I've already developed the project portal on the TSAC channel. I will go through next week and explain how that works and start assigning things. But TSAC delegates, those who submitted the projects, please do, reach out to your folks. And then I'm going to send a formal email to the delegates just so it's a little bit more official and they know also who has what. But that is that.
Thank you, Armando.
Thank you.
All right, then for the discussion for the, is that it for?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding the advisory updates? Both in regards to what Stephen about the concert and the other thing you mentioned. Matt?
In response to his comments about the search committee for the Title IX, honestly, I think it'd also be good to maybe have a delegate.
Okay.
Unless somebody on the council wants to also join.
I would say, yeah, it would definitely be beneficial to have at least one other person in case anything comes up for you and or some other stuff may help you with search stuff. Does anyone else have any questions or comments regarding that?
Matt, would you be willing on Teams in the TSAC leadership and delegate channel to mention that?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Just because all of our delegates aren't here today.
And also tangential, I did invite Cy to the ad hoc committee because he turned in his packet referencing he's looking to run for SACAV. So I thought it would be a good point to have a potential next generation of SACAV join those meetings. And if any other delegates are also looking at running for SACAV, I would suggest they should at least be welcome.
Anything else from anybody else? Online? Well, if there is no other questions or comments for Stephen about the advisor updates, then I'll make a motion to end the meeting.
I second that.
All right, all opposed? Any abstentions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passed. Being ended, you guys have a good weekend.
Thank you guys. You guys too. Take care.
Thank you guys. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Yeah, they weren't gonna give you personal advice.
Yeah.